This is the second time we're recording this video because we had quite a few technical difficulties. So let's just jump right in. We will go through and show you how to use ChatGPT effectively to generate target audiences for your brand, for your company, in order to do your advertisement, content, anything you need to do, whether it's social, digital, email, anything you want to do. Identifying your target audience is critical. On ChatGPT, in order for you to be successful, you have to build context. Let me explain. When you go to a party, you meet a stranger. The stranger asks you very basic questions like, who are you? Or you introduce yourself and shake hands. And then, oh, what do you do? Oh, really? What company are you with? How long you've been doing it? How long you've been married? What's your husband's name, wife's name? Oh, you have 3 kids you mentioned? What are they doing? Oh, my kids are in college and the other 2 are in junior high. You have to build that context when you're having a conversation with a human being who's a stranger. ChatGPT is a stranger. ChatGPT is phenomenal. AI does amazing things, but you cannot make any assumptions about what it knows. In fact, if you ask it, it says, oh, my knowledge base is limited to September of 2021. So if you're working on a brand that's right now, it has no clue who you are. It doesn't know about you. It doesn't know anything about your brand, what it stands for. Why did you decide to go into a certain type of a business? Nothing. It has no context, no history. Even if your company existed before September 2021, it may not have that knowledge in its knowledge base. So it's your job to actually give that context and build that context and make it really rich for ChatGPT to actually help you. So let's just dive in, and I'm going to show you how to do that and to make ChatGPT extremely effective for you to do different tasks like finding a target audience, the subject of this video. So the first prompt, my very first prompt when I start on a brand is this. Let me copy it and I'll paste it here. But before I hit enter, this is the prompt. In a minute, I will ask you to help me with various tasks related to my coffee brand. But before I get started, I want to tell you about myself. My name is Jane Doe. I'm the founder of a new coffee brand, Javalicious. So you're giving plenty of context here. The fact that your name is Jane Doe and you're telling them about yourself and you're saying it's a new coffee brand. It's not an existing coffee brand. It's a new coffee brand, Javalicious. So this is the key. I want you to ask me questions related to me, my background, and then about Javalicious so that I can give you as much context as possible for you to help me. Do you understand? This is a really, really good prompt. Everything I start on, every new brand that I touch in my business while working with my clients, this is what I start with. In their case, because it may be my existing brand for my clients, modify this prompt, but it will be a version of this basically. But the fundamental parts of it would be the same. So let's press enter. So as soon as you press enter, it says, absolutely, Jane, understanding context and specifics about you and the brand will help me provide more tailored assistance. Let's get started. The reason why we are asking it to ask us question is because when you don't give context to ChatGPT, and it's an AI tool, what it will do is it's going to infer and it's going to make inferences about what it thinks you're asking it to do. This is one of the things that I hear a lot of people complaining that, hey, I put stuff into ChatGPT and it gave me generic responses, it gave me the wrong response, but they don't give you the fact that they never built context into what they were trying to achieve. Once you do this context and you go through and answer these questions, you'll be pleasantly surprised how specific the recommendations get and how brilliant and more detailed the recommendations get. And when you ask it to produce content, it's not producing generic content. It's producing content in your voice, for your brand, for your target audience. It gets so specific in that kind of scenario. But when you have not built enough context, then you're going to get responses that you'll be 100%, I can guarantee it, you'll be disappointed with the results in that scenario. So it asks me a bunch of questions. So I'm going to go here. What I'll do is one hack, as you can see I'm doing. Whenever I work with ChatGPT, I have a Google Docs open all the time. When I'm writing the prompt, I write the prompt in Google Docs, I have it ready, and then I copy and paste it from here. There are 2 reasons for me to do that. Number 1, when I'm doing it, I'm saving the prompt so that I have a copy of it just in case, for whatever reason, I need to either build a new chat where I'm building this context for another brand, or I might take the entire prompt that I had built. I may want to bring it to another AI tool like Google's Bard, for example. So this is a great way of just having it in a document. You're saving it, you're keeping it, and it's great for safekeeping, right? So I'm going to move on. It asked me a bunch of questions, and these are the types of questions it had asked me. As you can see, it asked me for the first question, can you tell me about your professional background, particularly what led you to the coffee industry? And you can see my response is very detailed, very specific and very detailed. And then about the brand, it asked me, what is the vision and mission behind Javalicious? I said that in essence that I want to bring sustainable and ethical coffee to our customers that would love to talk about the highest quality of coffee and blends. As you can see, I'm just writing here, answering the questions to the best of my ability. I'm going to copy this. These are the questions it had asked me. And as you can see, it asked me a lot more questions here. I'm just giving you an example here, but you should definitely copy these questions, bring it into Google Doc, respond to each question inside of Google Doc, and then what I did just now, I copy and pasted it. I'm going to paste it right here, all my responses. So for this Javalicious question, there are 8 questions it's asking me. For about myself, it's asking me 3 questions. So here we go. I respond to it, and look at what it does. First, it thanks me for giving all this information, and now it's moving on the conversations. Next level, branding and positioning, customer engagement, product line, and it's going to ask, these are questions that it's just acknowledging what I'm telling it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, and there are a bunch of other questions that it had asked me. I'm going to paste those responses. I'm going to copy and paste. As you can see, customer marketing and customer engagement. It asked me a bunch of questions. I responded to it. It's very detailed. I'm going to copy that and come here and let it finish the previous one. I'm going to, now it's giving me recommendations, which one thing I would ask you to refrain from when it starts telling you these recommendations. What I would highly recommend when you're introducing it to a topic like about your brand and about yourself, resist the urge to take that advice, because it doesn't have enough context. So even though it's telling me these things, I'm going to ignore it. If it asks me a question, which it did at some points, I'm going to respond to those questions. And this process that we are going through, it should be very iterative. It should keep asking you these questions. And if it doesn't ask you a question, I'm going to wait for a couple of minutes. I'm going to show you how you can actually tell it to ask more questions, because it doesn't have enough context. So then the next set of questions is about customer feedback and community engagement. It's actually asking me these questions. I'm not coming up with these questions. I'm answering it based on that. So one thing that I want to point out in this prompt under ethics and compliance, it asked me a question like, can you elaborate on the specific ethical standards and sustainability guidelines that you follow? Be extremely transparent. If you don't know the answer, the best thing you can do to ChatGPT is say, look, I don't know the answer to this thing. You know, you may be very talented as a product developer, but you may not know the nuances of coming up with content on TikTok. You should not pretend that you know. If it asks you something very specific related to TikTok, say that, look, I know about product development. I have no idea anything about the best practices and what works on TikTok. So please help me. So in this question, this is an example of that question, and I responded, we need your help in assisting us in identifying credible organizations that we can align with and advise us on the best practices of a sustainable brand. Being very blunt, I like the idea of being a sustainable brand. You know it's ethical, it's the right thing to do, but you're out of your depth. You don't know all the organizations. You may not know what does it mean to be a sustainable brand, the nuances of it. So be very blunt and say, I don't know. So this is another way of you telling it, I don't know this, I need your help. So be very blunt. So we will copy this one too. So as it's asking us questions, we're going to give it these answers, including this thing that we just said that we don't know. Here we go. So it's acknowledging all these things and coming back to us. What we have done so far with answering all these questions that it had asked, we have just built up a tremendous amount of context. Now it knows about Jane Doe, the founder, knows that this is a new brand, and the brand is called Javalicious. But it has gotten every one of these things that it asks us we answered those questions so that it has built better context into our brand. So here's what's happening. Right now, it's giving us all this recommendation and feedback. This is going to be key. When you get to this point, after you do this process and it starts giving you recommendations, I know that ChatGPT does not have enough context into the brand I'm trying to build here. It doesn't. This is what I'm going to say. Continue asking me more questions related to Javalicious so that you can continue building more context into our brand before we ask specific tasks to be completed. This prompt, you should copy and paste it until you completely exhaust all the questions ChatGPT can possibly ask you about your brand. You owe that context to ChatGPT in order to give you a tremendous amount of help. If you don't do this and you short circuit this, you're not going to get relevant help. You're going to get generic help, and then you will be completely disappointed at the results you're getting from it. And then you might give up on ChatGPT and think that, oh, it doesn't work for us. It was giving me generic answers. This is the main reason why most AI prompts fail, because you are producing extremely generic responses that are not related to you. But the more questions you answer, the better you're going to get. So this prompt, for some of the brands, whether it's my own brands that I run or the brands that I help for my client, this is the step I go through iteratively. For some of the brands, it takes me 2 to 4 weeks until I feel like I've answered all the questions. And then the way I know that I've answered all the questions is actually when you paste this for the one final time, ChatGPT will come back to you and say, oh, I'm done with all the questions. You have given me all the context I need. Now, please go ahead and ask me what you need me to do. That's amazing, right? You go through this iterative process, giving it context, answering questions, answering questions, answering questions. And every time you're answering a question, copy the prompt, all the answers with all the questions it's asking you with the prompt and bring it into Google Docs. Store it there for safekeeping. Go and answer each one of the questions like I have done here. Copy it and then paste it back into ChatGPT. And then once you go through that, go back. If it's giving you help, tell it to stop. You want to reposting this specific prompt that you see that I've highlighted here. Continue asking me. We're not done yet. Continue asking me. And keep on going at it. Reserve time to work on this specifically to make sure that your brand is built out. It's going to just take time. And once you have given it enough time, you should be in a place that now you can ask it tasks to do. One warning I'm going to give you, if it asks you any questions that you feel is private information, for example, you say, oh, we have a proprietary blend of coffee, vitamins, the way we stitch our clothes for our fashion brand. It's proprietary and it's patented, or is patent pending or something like that. Something that's confidential. I would highly recommend for you not to disclose that information here. At this moment in time, these prompts and how the information you're putting in here may become public information, so you may not want to do that. If you are a public company, you're working there and you want to utilize these hacks, you may not want to put in your customer data, private information, other types of transactional data and stuff like that. If it's non-self-identifying, it may make sense for you to do that, but you will be the best judgment of that to see what you want to share. If it feels confidential, it doesn't make sense for you to be inputting these things because it may become part of the public knowledge base and it's not a good idea. That's the warning I'm going to give you until we get to a place in the AI revolution where you can select just like you do on your web browser. It allows you to have a new window, a new tab, and it says private window. And then on some browsers like the Brave browser, it says, oh, do you want to use a VPN in order to access the internet? So it's giving you those kind of security that doesn't exist right now on ChatGPT. So anything that you deem that's not public yet or it's highly confidential, do not put that in there. And say, if it asks you a question related to that, come back and be transparent. We have a patent pending. This is confidential information. Please ask me more open-ended questions related to this question that I can answer that is not proprietary data. You can be that blunt with the response. So let's copy this prompt and put it in here, and let's see what follow-up questions it's going to ask. So here we go. Given all of the things that we just pasted and answered all of its questions, it came back. As you can see, it's still not done. You're supposed to take this, copy it, and paste it into Google Doc, respond to each one of these questions. As you can see, it came up with all of these areas, including future plans. In 3 to 5 years, where do you see Javalicious? Be as detailed as possible here so that it gets a context of what trajectory and roadmap are you looking at. But if you don't have that roadmap, don't pretend. Just go like, we're a new brand and we're looking at strategies for the next 12 months, for the next 3 months, for the next 6 months. Whatever the answer is, be very blunt and very truthful about it and give that sort of a context. Like, let's say if I had copied these questions and I had brought it into Google Doc and I answered those questions and I put them in, it would ask me more follow-up questions. I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to paste this again and let's see what it does. It says, certainly the more context I have, now it's touching on other topics: financial planning, product range, marketing and public relations, supply chain, regulatory compliance. As you can see, it's going to go through each one of these areas, every vein of the business. These questions, by the way it helps me when I'm working through this is, think of it, you're onboarding a new employee on your team, a new talent, your new agency. They should be asking you these types of questions. Now, what you're doing is you're onboarding ChatGPT. So the more questions that it asks you, you keep on giving it context. Now let's say I copied this, I responded to it, and I pasted it in here, and then it came back and gave me feedback, and for some reason, it stopped asking me questions. This prompt, I'm gonna keep pasting it in here. So that I wanted to ask even more questions. Look at that: customer retention, content strategy, e-commerce experience. It's asking me like, do you even have e-commerce experience? Because that could be a sales channel. What about distribution? What about crisis management, quality assurance, market research, feedback loop? It's also, as a founder and as an entrepreneur or even a brand owner working for a bigger brand, when a good question is asked, it also increases my own knowledge too. So that I may not know, how do you plan to ensure that your branding and messaging are culturally sensitive and inclusive? Amazing question. I have no idea. I even know that that question should exist for my brand. So it just opens up my eye into looking and thinking about this brand, even other aspects of it, as if somebody intelligent, a great mentor, would be asking me, oh, did you put any thought into your company culture, for example? Great, it's asking me those very specific questions, and then you could give it what your thoughts are, and then also you can say, this is where these are my personal values and as a founder, and I would like to embed some of those personal values into my company. You can give it that sort of a context. I'm going to do one more time and let it ask more questions. And it's not just the questions, is you have to copy these questions into Google Doc, write down your answers, be as detailed as possible. The more detail you give it, the better context it's building, the more help it's going to give you. So as you can see, now it's going through retail experience, industry events, sustainability reporting, employee wellness. Look at it, it's touching on every vein of your business. You can build this out, the better it's going to be. And eventually, once you have given it all this context and you want to do this prompt one more time, eventually ChatGPT will come back to you, say that, oh, I have all the context. Now please go ahead and ask me whatever you want me to do. It will literally come back to you and tell you that, you know what, I'm done with all the questions I wanted to ask. I have plenty of stuff here. I can definitely help you. Even when it does that, let me show you the next prompt. Now I'm going to get to the core of this video's topic, which is finding target audiences for your business. So right here, I'm going to copy this last prompt after I had built all this context. And then, by the way, once you build that context, enough of it, then what you could ask, not just this task, you can ask it other tasks. But here's the key part of it. Okay, let me show you the wording of this prompt. Act as a coffee marketing expert that knows how to build target audiences on all the social media platforms and other digital media platforms. So first, I want to talk to the coffee marketing expert, not fashion marketing expert, not B2B marketing expert. I want to talk to a coffee marketing expert specifically. Now look at the second part of this prompt. Call on each platform marketing expert to recommend a target audience for that specific platform. So it's not just I want coffee marketing expert, I want Facebook ads coffee marketing expert. I'm being very specific here. Because the knowledge base ChatGPT has, it knows what coffee is, and it knows how marketing is in the coffee industry, and it knows Facebook ads. So it will give you the best recommendations there for Facebook specifically. I don't want to get a Twitter ad specialist to give me Facebook ad recommendations. That statement is being very specific. And then it says, also recommend the best marketing strategy, both organic and paid, for that specific platform. You can see that my prompt is very specific. This is actually an abbreviated version of my prompt for this request. Some of my prompts will be a lot more detailed. This is why it's better for you to actually type it into Google Docs. You can store it and you can modify it and then bring it into ChatGPT. And you may have noticed that when you keep building this context into ChatGPT, sometimes it slows down, sometimes it crashes. There are many issues with it because we're in the early stages of this technology. So having a Google Doc that stores these documents, it's easier for you to edit them and stuff like that, and then you can copy and paste it into ChatGPT. Let me copy that. And now, since we have built so much context and ChatGPT now is very rich with Jane Doe and coffee industry and the fact that I told it about this. And by the way, the other parts of it that you can fill in the blanks is if you have industry reports or any other things after September of 2021, you can actually feed that information into ChatGPT. That's part of the context also. You're not getting recommendations till September 2021. You're bringing it all the way to the current time. So let's paste this in here and see what it does. So it says, certainly, based on everything you told me, here's how I'd approach marketing Javalicious on various platforms. Let's give it a couple of seconds for the recommendations to complete. As you can see, it's actually formulating, and it's for every single platform right now, almost to the end. So let's scroll up. As you can see, it says stop generating, so that means that it's still generating. So Facebook, target audience, it says ages 25 to 45, interested in coffee, sustainability, eco-friendly living. Engage with brands like Starbucks, Fairtrade USA, EcoWatch. Marketing strategies. And because we gave it this specific format when we told it organic versus paid, look at that. Share a blog post about coffee bean sourcing and sustainability. Use Facebook Live to do Q&A sessions about coffee brewing and bean selection. Use customer testimonials to build social proof. So that's on the organic side. What about on the paid? Run retargeting ads for people who've visited your website that haven't made a purchase. Utilize lookalike audiences to reach people similar to your existing customer base. So one thing I want to point out here with this recommendation, because the platforms are ever changing, there might be some recommendations that come back that may not be relevant today, because back in September of 2021, some of those things were highly relevant, but now the platform has changed. It's not going to be as relevant. However, when you use Google's Bard, and in future, when you look at ChatGPT and it has upgraded its knowledge base to be much more real time, these kind of things will go away. In its nascent stage at this moment, the platform, this is the recommendation it gives you, but it gives you pretty general ideas about what it is. Now, if you move on to the next one, it touches on Instagram recommendations are different because that platform is different. It says use stunning posts showcasing your coffee and its origins. Use stories and reels. Those are very specific to Instagram, so that it's not giving you generic responses here. TikTok, it's telling you even what kind of tags to engage with, like coffee lovers, sustainable living, and eco-friendly. It's giving you very specific advice on how to do organic and how to do paid TikTok ads, in-feed ads specifically. It says consider collaborating with TikTok influencers to widen your reach. So it's giving you very specific recommendations for every single platform that we told it to go on, popular social media platforms, digital marketing platforms. If you see that, for example, as I scroll through these platforms, for some reason for your brand, LinkedIn is very important, and you asked it a very generic thing, you never said LinkedIn or any platform, and it did not give you LinkedIn. You could actually type in LinkedIn because it has that context of what it asks you to do, what you asked it to do. Now it's giving you LinkedIn recommendations specifically. And this one will be targeted towards a B2B market as a professional. Very different strategy. Look at the recommendations it came back with for a coffee brand that's interested in using the platform, LinkedIn platform, to do organic and paid. As you can see, it's very specific to this platform. And you know that that's a professional platform, and it's a networking platform. It's a very different approach to when you go after consumers on a Facebook platform, for example. This is what you should be doing. You should build up a ton of context, and once you have built a ton of context, then ask it to do that. One variation of this AI prompt that you could do is when we started at the very top, when we said that this is who we are, but ask me questions. That's the way I typically do it. Another version of that would be, hey, this is who I am, this is our brand, please ask me questions, but ultimately I'm gonna ask you to do this task. So ask me everything that you need to know about me, my brand, and my background, but specifically I'm gonna be asking you to, after we're done with those things, I'm gonna be asking you to do this specific task. Take that into consideration when you're asking me a question, right? So it will actually keep on asking you questions related to those two things, like context into who you are and the fact you are already asking it what task to do, but start with answering plenty of questions. In future videos, I will go through and give you specific recommendations on how do you build out LinkedIn, how do you build out Facebook, how do you build out Pinterest on ChatGPT. I'll be very specific about each one of them, so be on the lookout for those future videos. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please like and subscribe and comment below any questions you have related to this prompt or anything related to ChatGPT, and I'll sure to respond to you. By the way, these exact prompts are in my video description. Click the link and get access to it.